Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you. So yeah, this week's theme is conquer your fear. Okay, let's have a look at the words that we have learned this week. All right. So in 60-minute seminar today, we will review the words, the vocabularies that we used this week, and this week's. I don't know why this is plural, but anyway, this week, and we're going to practice them. Right? These are some of the words that we have looked at this week. Right. So let's start with the stress. Okay. So the stress can be also noun. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the stress as a noun. But it can be also used as a verb. So I am stressed. So are you stressed? You look like you are stressed. Are you okay? You know, something like that. So stress. But at the same time, stress can be not only negative, but also can be something when you want something to be strong. Okay, so these are the words that the synonyms that you can use: emphasize, spotlight, and highlight. Okay? So in this time, you would use, like in a sentence, something like, he stressed the importance of something. Like he stressed the importance of voting. Yeah, he emphasized the importance of voting. American election is coming up quite soon. Anyway, so yeah, so the stress, emphasize, highlight, and spotlight, they're all the same meaning. So okay, so I guess the graphic here is probably not appropriate in this case, because I was using this stress as not only this kind of stress, but more like, you know, to make it stronger. Right? Defeat, beat, conquer, and overcome. Right? Defeat is when you feel like you are lost. Okay, you are lost or you are beaten. But also, defeat is you can use on the other side as well. When you win a battle, you can say, I defeated someone, or I beat. Beat is past tense is also beat, right? So beat. Yeah, so I beat him playing chess. Conquer, overcome. They all the same meaning. So same meaning as win. Ask. I believe everybody knows this word. So ask, query, question, interrogate, quiz, right? So they're all the same meaning. To ask, when you have a question, when you have something you're not sure about, you can ask anyone, you can ask anytime, right? So the query and question, also query, question, and quiz also can be noun, can be used as a noun. I asked the question. I asked. There was a query about how to use the new camera, or there was a quiz about English quiz, vocabulary quiz, something like that. But you can also use as verb. I queried him. I questioned him. I quizzed him. Okay? There are slightly different meanings, but they're all synonyms of ask. Give. Or asked, you would give the answer. Hand. You would hand something to the. You would hand information. Grant, a word. They're all the synonyms of give. Right. So give, offer, give and offer are pretty much could be used almost like the same. But hand also probably give, yeah, similar. But grant is more like when it's used when people give permission, like when I was granted a permission to enter a house. Or award is a bit more new, this, yeah, when he was awarded of Grammy Award, something like that. Okay, something after you have accomplished something, somebody is going to award you as a sort of bonus or gift. Promise. Promise is also very well known. People would confuse for other meanings. So yeah, the promise is when you make a promise, you swear that you will do it, or you will assure someone that you will do it. Okay, engage. Most people know engage as engagement for the wedding. It's a promise that you are marrying that person. Okay. Guarantee is a little bit different. Guarantee is that, well, guarantee is also the same meaning as promise, but it has a bit more, how should I say, stronger. Yeah. So in those words, promise, swear, guarantee, assure, and engage, the first two are more verbal. So I promise you, or I swear I will do it. But when you say guarantee, assure, and engage, of course you can use as a spoken words, but you can these words you would probably see more often in documents. It's a guarantee, 30-day guarantee, or like assure. Assure you can use as a verbal as well, but this is more strong or more formal. So when you're in business, you are making promises to your customer about something, right? So if you buy this service, you will be able to speak English in 30 days. I promise you. But when I say I assure you, it sounds more professional or more like business. So that's the difference between promise and assure. Happen. This word also very common, so I'm sure that everybody knows how to use. Happen is something happened. Yeah, there is a sort of action to it. Okay? Happen, occur, take place, come up. They're pretty much the same, how they're used pretty much in the same way. But when you say result, it's a bit of cause and effect. So there was something pre-action. That's why it was resulted in this way. Yeah. So happen and occur, come up. It sounds like accident. All right. So there was nobody was planning to do that, but it just happened or like occurred. It just came up. But take place can be also used like an accident, but you could pre-plan. So the marathon event took place today in Tokyo. But marathon event cannot happen like an accident. It was planned and prepared. Okay? It resulted due to the marketing campaign. It resulted success. It resulted thousands of people participated, and it was a success. So result is like what happened, and then in the end, what happened. Expand. So expand. The word that I have an image of expand is like a balloon. Okay, so inflate and expand, I have quite similar image. So like when you're inflating or when you're expanding, it's like expand, you know, like big energy, right? Expand, inflate, it could be something. It could start with something small, could be big. But enlarge is, yes, it's bigger, but it doesn't have as big energy as the same energy as expand or inflate. So enlarge. Most of the time, people would use enlarge when you are trying to enlarge the size in your smartphone or tablet. You would do, you know, like this to enlarge the font or the picture, right? So that's enlarge and expand and inflate. Widen and stretch is a bit more like this kind of image. Okay, so wide is narrow and wide is the antonyms, right? So when it's narrow, it would wide. This is wide, and widen is the action that you would make it bigger. Okay, widen. And stretch can be very thin. Of course, it could be very big. But when you're saying that when you say that you use the word stretch, it sounds like it's similar to widen, but it's like kind of, you know, this, like I stretched. Okay, so you can use these words for not only a thing like clothes or material, but you could also use as in a business or in a business. So when you say I stretched something, I stretched a goal or something, so there was a goal that you wanted to achieve, but because you feel like you can get there in time, you can stretch the goal to a little bit longer, a little bit farther to the further point. Okay, when you say expand the business, it was like, you know, I expanded my business. So I can say I started my business in Japan, but I expanded globally now since this from this year, something like that. So yeah, so these expand and enlarge, inflate, widen, and stretch. They are all synonyms, but it could be slightly different. The image is a little bit different. Right, so these are the words that we have looked at this week. And then this week, I wanted to share with you 4 other words. Yeah, a little bit too much, sorry. But yeah, so I wanted to share these words like optimistic and pessimistic. So optimistic is the girl on your left, right? So optimistic is usually a person who you would describe who is positive. Okay, optimistic. When there is something like during this time, you know, it's like, you know, with the COVID-19, a lot of Japanese people are pessimistic. So in a situation like this, everybody is like, oh, you know, I'm so worried about my work. I'm so worried about my family. What I'm gonna do if I'm infected by COVID-19. You know, these are the people who is pessimistic. But the people who is optimistic is like, yeah, it's like bad, but it's not. It's like as long as you're careful, you won't be probably infected. So yeah, I'm just gonna live like usual, like normal. So that's the optimistic people and pessimistic people. Also, idealistic and realistic. Okay, idealistic person is that they have dreams. They always have dreams and they live in dreams. They always talk about something that can happen, but it's a bit not too realistic. Okay, realistic person is like one step at a time. Okay, but idealistic person is like in the best case scenario, always thinking about the best case scenario. So if I did this, I could be millionaire. If I did this, I could be successful. These are the people who is idealistic, and the realistic person is a bit more fact-based. So they're like it doesn't always mean that they're pessimistic, but you can be optimistic and realistic at the same time. But a lot of the people happen to be pessimistic and realistic. A lot of optimistic person happen to be idealist. Okay? So these 4 words are quite important. Sorry. These 4 words are quite important when you are explaining about how you conquered or how you defeated your stress. Okay? So this week, what I want you to do using some of the words that we have learned this week is that I want you to think of a story when you felt like you were defeated or you were lost. But what you did in a case like that, okay? So nobody is perfect. And then as much as I am a very optimistic and idealistic person, but of course sometimes I can get defeated. But there are things that I do when I am in a situation like that to overcome with my fear. Try to be more optimistic and happy about the future again, right? Okay, so these are the words that we have looked at this week. So now I want you to share your personal story using some of the words that we have looked at this week to talk about when you the situation when you feel like you have been defeated, and the actions that you took to overcome with your fear or concerns about the future. Okay? So these are the words that we have used this week, and using these, I want you to come up with a story, with your own story, that when in a situation when you felt like you were defeated, but some actions you took to overcome with your fear or concern. Okay? So I will give you 5 minutes now. If you have a questions, please unmute yourself and ask. Otherwise, please go ahead and then work on your story. Okay, welcome back. Right, so before we start sharing, I will share my personal story about when I felt defeated and then the actions I took to overcome with those uncertainty and the concerns and fear that I was feeling at that time, right? So this was back in 2008 when there was a financial crisis. In Japanese English, it's called the Lehman shock, but elsewhere in English, it's called the financial crisis in 2008. Right? So in 2008, I was working at the Dutch bank in Tokyo, in Japan. And one day I went to the office and I was told that there was a town hall meeting. Town hall meeting is a company-wide meeting that everybody attends. The CEO talked for about an hour about the difficult economic situation that the whole industry and the whole world was in. And then he said, that's why we decided to discontinue business in Japan, meaning that all the employees would get fired because they closed office in Japan. I was 28 at that time. And so I was, in the beginning, I was a little bit optimistic. I I knew that I thought it was not very good situation, but there is always some job, there is always jobs. That was not my first job that I had. But as I learned the job industry, I felt like there was no future, there was no career for me. So I had a lot of concerns, I had a lot of fear about my future. But what I did then was I decided to do two things. One thing is that I decided to go on travel. So my sister lives in Australia. So as soon as I was ready, I traveled to Australia to stay with my sister for a few weeks. And after I came back, I realized that there was still no job. So what I did was I decided to do something that I had never done before. When you have a job, when you're working, you have some money, but you have no time. In that situation I was in, I had a little bit of money and I had a lot of time. So I decided to do something that I couldn't do because I had no time. And this time I went to Shimane I went to Izumo in Shimane and Takachiho in Kyushu, because those are the places that you have to have a little bit time to go. Okay, and then when I visited those places, you know that those places have history for over 1,000 years. When you look at those places that is there for over 1,000 years, I started to feel like, this place could survive for 1,000 years. Why can't I survive for another 10 years or 20? So I started to feel better about myself, or about a bit more bright about the future that I was going to face. Okay, so that was the first thing I did. I traveled to historical sites. The second thing I did was I kept in contact with someone who believed in me. So again, that was the third job that I had. And then I knew the person the headhunter. The headhunter is the person who introduced the job to you. So this person I knew for a while. And then I knew that he always believed in me. So while I was lost at the job, I was still looking for the job for 4 months. I kept in contact with him. I called him almost every week, and to talk about what I want to do next, or what kind of the job that I was looking for. And then whenever I felt not confident, and I told him that I was not feeling confident, I told him that I was having a fear about my future or my career. But he always said, Masai, I believe in you. You are far much better than who you think you are. So yeah, have some courage. The situation is not very good for all of us, but this is not going to continue. And then he said, he always believed in me, and then he always encouraged me that I would continue to do what I think what's best for me, right? So every time I felt not so confident, or I had some fear, I knew I had a person I could contact and talk to, who can always encourage me, right? So there are two things. When I feel a fear, I would usually travel to historical sites where things there for more than 1,000 years. The second thing is that I keep in touch with someone who believe in me. In that way, you could start feeling that you are good about yourself. So I hope this was helpful in some way. And then, yeah, I hope that you could learn something about my story. Anyway, so let's go ahead and then go around the circle to share what we have learned this week. And by using some of the words that we learned this week, let's share your personal story. Okay, all right. Okay, thank you very much for sharing your stories today. Yeah, I learned people do different things. So some people do exercise. Some people just believe in themselves. Some people do something very different, to overcome your fear or to beat your, I don't know, weak mind, right? So yeah, the words that we have looked at, I think it's very important to know which ones you are, optimistic or pessimistic, or idealistic or realistic. Another thing I wanted to share with you today is that this is all in your head. Okay? When you feel stressed, when you feel fear, when you have a fear, you, depending on your personality, you would feel a lot of negative things. You would think a lot of negative things. Your mind is going to sometimes it's not going to help you. But know this, yes, sometimes one bad thing could happen, but it's very rare that the bad things happen simultaneously, again and again and again. Usually one bad thing happens, but what happens after this is all in your head. Okay, so the COVID situation is not very helping us, yes, but because of COVID situation, I know that some people have a difficult time at work, but we have now more time at home to spend time, to spend with your family or at home, and you don't have to commute in a train. So that's the positive side. And a lot of people, I know that some people lost the job, but a lot of people at the same time still have the job. So it's good that you still have some income, continue to have, to work. Like when I lost the job in 2008, and then so try to see the bright side. But the important thing is that it's all in your head. Whether you're going to take the situation bad or good, everything is in your head, right? So if you try to think, see the positive side of something, maybe not the positive, but to be realistic. Like, have I lost the job? No. Have I lost money? No. Have I got this, did I get sick? No. To be realistic, you feel like maybe you're in a better situation, and eventually you could overcome with your fear or your concerns. Right? So anyway, I hope that something we learned this week was somewhat meaningful. Oh, and then I forgot, this week we were using some of the words that was introduced in this book, one of the best-selling books in the world, Asked and It Is Given. All right, so I hope you have a very nice weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye.